Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Éire's Epics in History. I'm your host, John Fisher. I hope you all had an exciting St. Patrick's Day. I sure did. Definitely feasted on some very tasty Irish food and had a lot of fun with my friends. And I hope all of you were able to, just enjoy the day, learn a bit about Irish history and Irish culture. And if you haven't already, I put up a video in commemoration of St. Patrick's Day about the man himself, St. Patrick. It's on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can look into it. I definitely encourage you to. A lot of fun and interesting facts about that guy. And so today we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to where we left off with. We had just finished up talking about Henry VIII and his impact on the Irish, and we were going a bit into Elizabeth I, and we talked about some of the provinces and how each of them over time fell to the British Crown. And we're going to go more into that today. So around the late 1500s, we're seeing a rebellion come about from the Irish toward the British Crown. And the primary figure in that rebellion was Hugh O'Neill, who was born into the O'Neill clan. And he was born in Tyrone, which was an ancient kingdom in Gaelic Ireland. And he ends up being educated in England, where he gets to know the British mentality, and he actually is very sly and very crafty and very smart. He ends up becoming affiliated with Elizabeth I and the English administration, and for years makes them think, oh, I'm on your side, I'm working alongside you. And he's so successful that in 1585 he's made Earl of Tyrone. And at the same time, he's secretly making these alliances with these Gaelic chieftains, like the O'Donnell family. And he ends up in 1595 showing his true allegiance when he attacks Fort Blackwater, which was a British fort. He attacks it and he helps capture it. And, that sends a message to Elizabeth I saying, you've been duped. I'm sure she didn't enjoy that. But yeah, so he ends up working with these Gaelic chieftains to continue to resist British power and British enforcement of various rules that try and suppress Irish culture and try and suppress the Irish themselves. Elizabeth I is not having this. So she sends the second Earl of Essex with 20,000 troops to help quell this rebellion. But the Earl is not successful, and as punishment, Elizabeth brings him back to England. He's imprisoned and eventually executed. And so, yeah, you don't want to get on her bad side. And she sends a man named Lord Mountjoy, and please do not be fooled by his name. He was actually a ruthless strategist who would kill anyone who got in his way. She sends him to Ireland to do what the Earl failed. And he helped set up this British garrison in Derry that the O'Donnell clan is up against. And so Hugh O'Neill at this point is down in Munster, and he marches up from Munster to help O'Donnell against the British garrison. At the same time, the Irish have reached out for help from the Spanish. The Spanish send over a number of troops to help the Irish. They land in County Cork in 1600, but they're immediately brought under siege by Mountjoy. This is in September of 1600. So, with encouragement from the O'Donnell clan, O'Neill marches across Ireland to help try and put an end to the siege, to bridge peace with the British. Doesn't end up happening. Instead, on Christmas Eve in 1600, you have this all-out battle, the Battle of Kinsale. And the Irish lose. One of the O'Donnells, Red Hugh O'Donnell, he ends up he was at the battle, and he ends up fleeing with the Spanish survivors. And O'Neill returns to Ulster, where his army is in tatters, and this truly signifies the end of Irish resistance against the British, because Ulster, as you recall from my recent video on this subject, was the last province to really stand its ground against the British. And at this point, with this loss, it's only a matter of time before Ulster is forced to submit, which eventually it does when Hugh O'Neill cedes to the British in a place called Montefell or Montefiore. I got to check the name out. But he cedes to the British in 1603. At this point, Elizabeth I has died, but she's died knowing that her policies have helped put a stop to Gaelic Ireland, and that the British have succeeded. So, and with Hugh O'Neill submitting to the British in 1603, that really signifies the end, the loss of the last Irish province to stand its ground against Great Britain. It really signifies the end of Irish resistance to Great Britain. In fact, a few years later, O'Neill actually leaves Ireland. And the way that plays out is you have Rory O'Donnell, the brother of Red Hugh O'Donnell. He's trying to go up against the British without much success. He becomes the Earl of Tyrconnell, or Tyrconnell. Tyrconnell, that's it. He becomes the Earl of Tyrconnell, and he ends up working with another Gaelic chieftain, Maguire. I can't pronounce his first name, so I won't even attempt to, but he ends up trying to work with Maguire to go and fight against the British, and they're not successful. So they decide, you know what, let's just leave. So in 1607, they decide to board a ship, a Breton ship, with 99 other Gaelic chiefs, families, and officials. And they decide to board this ship and sail to the continent. And Hugh O'Neill, who has recently been summoned to London, hears about this and decides, I'm going to go with them. And sure enough, they do. They leave from a place called Rathmullen in County Donegal, and they arrive in the Spanish-controlled Netherlands. And from there, they make their way down to Rome, where O'Neill dies in exile. Now, in doing this actually impacts the Irish in a negative way even more, because now all these Gaelic chieftains have left, and so the Irish have no leaders, which allows the British to really take advantage. And the British set up their most radical form of plantations, where they took a number of different counties like Armagh, Cavan, Tyrone. They take all of these counties and they divide them up into lots of land made up of 1,000 to 2,000 acres. And these people called the undertakers, they end up coming along. The land falls into their hands for them to manage, build up defenses, and then settle the land. They basically bring in all of these English and families from the lowlands of Scotland. They bring in all these families, plant them in these lots of land, give them these lots of land to really colonize it and make it into English territory. And in doing so, the Irish are pushed out to the poorest areas. And at the same time, you have basically, I'm trying to think. Now, I need to tell you about Derry. So there was a portion of land in County Derry, which today is now the city of Derry, or if you're a Protestant, you would call it the city of Londonderry. because this portion of land was given to the City of London itself, and the City of London built it up and ended up naming it Londonderry. And that name is still a subject of controversy today. You speak to an Irish Catholic, they'll call it Derry. You speak to an Irish Protestant or a British Protestant, since it's part of the United Kingdom, they'll call it Londonderry. So there's still a lot of tension around the name. And Ulster itself, Ulster itself is left in a period of limbo, where, you know, its fate hasn't been decided, and we start to see, you know, throughout the land of Ireland, even though most of Ireland was now under British control, the Irish still retain their faith, their devotion to Catholicism in most areas. The only province where you start to see this devotion to Protestantism is Ulster, because that's where a lot of new English families have been planted, English Protestants. So really, that's why Ulster is much more Protestant compared to the other parts of Ireland, because that's where a lot of these English families and Scottish families from the lowlands of Scotland were brought to settle. So yeah, just very interesting indeed. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and please share it. You know, please spread the word about these videos and the history and lessons that they can teach you about Ireland and its culture. And I will see you tomorrow night. Thank you.